Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Board of Selectmen meeting. We will start with a roll call. Mr. Kyra.
Here.
Mr. Bendel.
Here.
Mr. De Palma.
Here.
And Mr. Hull.
Here.
All right. We did have an executive session for the purpose, prior to this meeting, for the purpose of discussing the purchase, exchange, lease, or other acquisition of real property at 64 Wildwood Street in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A6, and to discuss collective bargaining strategy with respect to the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local 1703, Unit 1, in accordance with MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, and further to discuss strategies with respect to litigation involving multi-district litigation against manufacturers and distributors of opioids in accordance with MGL Chapter 21A3, as an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the town as so determined by the chairman. If we could all please stand right now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Transmitting Treasury warrant numbers 5, 3, 3A, 4, 4A, 5, 5A, 5B, 5C, 6, 6A, 7, and 7A.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Got it. Now the approval of minutes from March 15th, 2021, June 28th, 2021, and July 12th, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Mr. Palmer, do I have a second?
Works, sir.
Or discussion?
Are you approving one at a
three
time?
or-
or
Yeah,
all
we'll do
three?
March 15th first, apologies. Mr. Palmer, is that your motion
Make
to
a
approve?
motion.
Do I have a second on March 15th?
Second.
All in favor? Motion to approve the June 28th meeting minutes.
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimously approved. And the July 12th meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the July 12th meeting minutes.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Unanimous approval on all three. Next, we will go on to appointments. First up is Paul Aluni, our town engineer. Did I say that wrong, Aluni? Okay, sorry. Starting with the status on the Cook Avenue water connection.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This Paul Aluni, Town Engineer. This first item is related to the water main installation on Cook Ave that's being undertaken by Olin. Part of the town's agreement with Olin, they had 1 year to complete the project or request an extension from the board. That year anniversary is August 18th, so they've filed a request for an extension of 45 days. I can report to the board what the status is now. This is a GIS map of the area. This is Cook Ave here, and here you have Main Street. I can tell you that the entire water main's installed on Cook Ave and the offshoot on Burnham Street. All 3 fire hydrants are installed. The 5 water shutoffs to the properties are installed. The 2 water services that they were required to install to the 2 affected properties on Cook Ave have been installed. What's remaining is the chlorination of the water main. They have to make an adjustment to one of the hydrants on Burnham Street and do a pressure test on that leg of the water main extension, and they have to do final paving. I think it's in the town's best interest to grant the request or the extension. It'll give us some time to do our final punch list before the agreement expires. It'll be operational. We can see for the next 45 days that things are working as they should, and it'll also give us time to confirm that they've paid all their subcontractors and vendors and get those certifications as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion? Mr. Paul? Yeah.
Just one question.
Yeah.
At the end of the 45 days, will the paving and everything be done?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Tomorrow morning, I have a meeting on site with their contractor to go over the final scope of paving. That should be done within the next, 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Paul, thank you for being here.
No, you're welcome.
Question, in terms of the households being able to drink the water, is that possible now, or it's gonna be 45 days till they can do it? Is it 30 days so they can drink? Any indication of when they'll be able to, it has to be fully complete,
Yeah, I would say it's imminent.
even the paving?
Correct. So they would, right now, they're in the process of chlorination testing. So the services, I spoke personally with the resident at the end of Cook Ave. He confirmed that the water meter's in. Really, the only thing left is the final connection in his house, or in their house, and that won't happen until the test results come back that the line has passed the chlorination test and it's safe to consume. I think, like I said, I really expect it to be any day. Tomorrow they'll come back, make the adjustment on the hydrant. We'll go over the scope of the final paving, and they want to be done with this sooner than later as well.
Great. I'm just thrilled that they're not gonna have to wait 45 more days to be able to drink the water, which is great,
Yeah.
after all these years that they've had to wait. So thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
All right. If there's no,
So I would just, even though it is under board to consider, perhaps you may want to consider taking this out of order and authorize the extension for the duration of 45 days from August 18th.
Yep.
I'll make that into a form of a motion, Madam Chair.
Okay.
It's number 7, I believe, on the board to consider.
Yep.
Second?
All in favor? It's unanimous. Great. Okay. And then we have Mr. Looney for the denial of application for Woburn Street truck exclusion.
Thank you again, Madam Chair and members of the board. We had filed a request for a truck exclusion with MassDOT. MassDOT approves all truck exclusions, all enforceable truck exclusions for every municipality. They determine, let me back up and explain this GIS map. This is the section of Woburn Street we were requesting the exclusion for, which is between Route 129 on Lowell Street and Ames Street. The reason why we were requesting this extension, it's been talked about for, total anecdotally, for 2 decades now. It is a densely residential area in this section, and it's surrounded, as you can see, by industrial uses. MassDOT, they base their approval on MUTCD guidelines. That's the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. So the MUTCD prescribes thresholds that you have to demonstrate as a municipality that you're meeting. The 2 overall topics of, or points or warrants in the MUTCD is first, that the alternate route lies wholly within the community, that the proposed exclusion is for. So what I've highlighted here in green is the alternate route. You can see we satisfy that fully. The next warrant is that at least 5% of the total traffic volume on the roadway has to be truck traffic. We were below that. We were at 2.5% based on the data we collected. We opted to advance with the request because in anticipation of the expected traffic increase from the new Boston Street Bridge, which I know there was a write-up in the Crier this past issue, August last week. So we cited that, and we also provided MassDOT with a letter of support from the city of Woburn, and we also provided Selectmen minutes from, I think it was back in 2004 when the that board had requested to move forward with this truck exclusion along Woburn Street. Unfortunately, we received word back from MassDOT that because we didn't meet the warrant, they were going to deny our request. They suggested two things. One, there is an unenforceable truck exclusion sign at the end of Oxbow, which is here. They recommended to take that down and to re-study the area or recount the traffic 6 months after the new Boston Street Bridge was opened for traffic. At this point, I actually recommend we advance with counting the traffic again, and this coming fall. The numbers I collected, they were pre-COVID. I think there's been an uptick. There's definitely been an uptick since in truck traffic. So let's recount. Let's see where we're at, and hopefully the numbers come back more favorable and get us closer to that 5% benchmark.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to answer any questions the board has, and thank you.
Discussion?
Yeah,
Mr. Carr?
Just to reiterate, what you're saying or what I'm hearing, it's that 5% threshold that has excluded our request? Is that pretty much it?
Correct, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, there's about 10,000 vehicles per day using that stretch of Woburn Street, and we counted 250. It's called Class 5 vehicles or higher, which is commercial trucking. We got to be up around like 500, or reduce the total traffic count would have to reduce to make that percentage 5%.
Yeah.
I know you had mentioned that they're recommending we take down the truck exclusion sign
Yes.
that's up there. Do you think that by taking that down, it might help the numbers there also? 'Cause
Yeah, that's the thought there. Since it's a non-enforceable truck exclusion, actually, we had taken those down last week, so.
thank you.
Any further questions? No? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Looney, and you have one more.
Yes.
This is the request to approve easement at 203 Lowell Street.
Thank you again, Madam Chair, members of the board. This last item is to ask the board to accept an easement for right-of-way and utilities from the owner of 203 Lowell Street. That's at the corner of Woburn and Lowell Street. The purpose behind this is to facilitate our intersection improvements that are scheduled for construction in 2023 as part of the state transportation improvement program. This easement runs, I highlighted here in blue, along the frontage of Lowell Street, and what this will allow us to do, it will allow us to extend the lane for a dedicated right turn lane, concrete sidewalk, and some grading and utility work along that frontage. This was also a requirement of the planning board. 203 Lowell Street was recently in front of the planning board for a permit application to construct 50 condo units, I think a 10,000 square foot office and retail building, and a small bank. So we saw that opportunity it's of course mutually beneficial to development to have this intersection upgraded to the highest degree. So they agreed to provide this easement to the town as part of that requirement, as part of that decision. And happy to answer any questions on this.
Any questions? I have one. So there'll be an entrance into the property on that easement from Lowell Street?
They, as far as the new development is
Yeah.
concerned, they actually are using
current
this
one.
existing curb cut that is along, that Textron, I think, was using.
Yeah, okay.
It's like abandoned now, but they'll
Yeah.
be improving that. I have the endorsed plan set. Do you want to see what that looks like? I can just show you that.
Yeah, I would love to see
map.
that, please.
Sure. And this is, it's not a, it's a private development project, but I figured there might be a question as to like kind of what was going on and how it related to the
Right.
event. So this is the plan set that was endorsed by the planning board that I scanned in. And it's what's a good plan? Let's do this layout plan. So it's orientated upside down, so like north is facing down. So this
Okay.
is the southwesterly corner of Woburn and Lowell.
Okay.
Lucci's supermarket is over here.
All right, gotcha, thank you.
And yeah, and here's Lowell Street. So this is that entrance I was showing you.
All right.
It's
yep.
just drastically improved
So
from
they'll
what it
keep
is.
that one, okay, good.
That tray of parking that you see today, the abandoned parking lot, is
Yeah.
all kind of right in here in the heart of their design. There's also another entrance off of Woburn Street
Mhm.
that's opposite the supermarket's like second entrance that I think is used by like truck traffic.
Yep, yep, okay.
And here's the 10,000 square foot retail facility, and here's the proposed bank. They haven't started construction yet. They haven't asked for their pre-construction meetings or anything like that with my staff. But this was a requirement in the decision to provide this executed document prior to the planning board endorsing it.
Okay, no, thank you, that's helpful.
Sure.
And that, sorry, one more question, sorry, Gary. So on the Woburn Street where that current road is, that'll be for truck traffic?
Oh,
Or will
yeah?
it- Will it also, yeah, will that also be for?
I think just,
patrons?
yeah, for everyone.
Okay.
That's open to
for
fully,
both?
yeah.
That's perfect, okay, good, thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Palmer?
One question, with this development coming in, the changes to Textron and all, the design of that intersection were those two projects taken into consideration, or is it something that you're gonna have to go back to address because of
Great
new
question.
traffic?
Yeah, that's a great question. This project was contemplated in that design. Textron came in with their redevelopment plan. They're still being permitted now. However, we are now, the stages of development for its MassDOT's design development process, it goes 25% design plan, 75%, and then 100%. We're at the 75% stage, so we're now taking that information from VHB, which was Textron's or National Development's traffic design engineer, put them in touch with TEC. We had TEC, which is the town's traffic consultant, we had them peer review National Development's project so that they were getting this information firsthand and making sure that National Development was making any of the changes that they needed to make if they are approved over the next couple months.
Yeah, that's the only concern I have with that intersection, is the fact that I'd hate to see us in the state spend all the time, money, and everything to create it and find out that it's not correct because of these new developments that are coming in. I know developments come in and out all the time, but where they're so close to being here now that I would hope that they would be seriously considered.
Oh, yes, we are making sure of that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions or discussion? No? Okay.
So, Madam Chair, on this one also, there is a board to consider, but I would ask that the board consider taking it up now, which would be a motion to
Great.
authorize the easement.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Approved unanimously. And that would be number 8 on the agenda that we just did. Great. Thank you, Mr. Looney.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
everything
Oh, no
tonight.
problem. Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much.
Take care. Okay, next for appointments is Shelley. I don't see her here yet.
Yeah, actually, Madam Chair, I did, I guess I was
Oh, because we're
not
ahead.
as optimistic
Yes.
as I could have been here about the timeline, so I think I might have told her 7:30.
Okay. Do we want to just move forward and go back? Is that all right?
Yeah. I think
Okay.
that's-
Thank you. All right, so we will move forward and then get back with Ms. Newhouse when she's here, since we're a little bit of ahead of schedule. We
Oh.
will,
actually, it's-
oh, good timing. We ran early, Shelley. So now we will bring Shelley Newhouse in, the Health Director, for a COVID update and masking protocol. Hey, Shelley.
I'll go over some numbers first, so fill you guys in on what's been happening lately. So, right now, we have 33 active positives in Wilmington, and 5 are under the age of 12, and we have 9 in the age group of 20 to 30, and from 30 to 50, we have 11, and from ages 50 to 70, we have 8. Out of those, 17 are breakthrough cases, meaning that they've already been vaccinated. Seeing in Massachusetts right now, 74% of the population has at least had 1 dose. So that's good news. And 66% in Massachusetts are fully vaccinated. So in Wilmington right now, we're at 62% fully vaccinated and around 72% with at least 1 dose. So we're falling in line with Massachusetts as a whole, which is good news. I really love to see more people get vaccinated. That's what's really going to slow the spread of this new variant, the Delta variant that's out there, and just COVID in general. The vaccine does slow the spread. It does work. A lot of people are thinking, well, why are we having breakthrough cases? And it's important to remember that the vaccine isn't 100% effective. So, it's only 95% effective in some cases. So you will have people that are getting COVID and spreading it, and those that aren't just immune to it from even getting the vaccine, they're still going to get COVID. But if you are vaccinated and you do get COVID, you will get a much less severe form of the disease. We're not seeing any hospitalizations, deaths from getting the Delta variant if you're already vaccinated. So that's why it's still so important to get vaccinated, because you're really preventing those around you that aren't vaccinated from getting a more severe form of the Delta variant that's out there. It's very, very contagious, and the only thing we have is to push for vaccinations. So that's very important. This Thursday, we're going to have a vaccination van here in Wilmington, and that'll be for ages 12 and up, and it's going to be at the Swain Green, the parking lot right there, the 4th of July parking lot. So that will be at, that'll be at 4 o'clock, and that will be for Pfizer and for J&J. That's will be available. So the second dose after that will be on September 9th. So I'm hoping to get a good turnout. We'll push out some advertising this week. It's pretty quick. Cataldo Ambulance is doing it for us, so we're happy about that. And it's open to really anyone, not just Wilmington residents. So anyone that drives by and sees them there, they can pull in and get a vaccine, which is important. Right now, too, as well, the Mass DPH is recommending booster shots for those with certain conditions. And that would mean that those who are immunocompromised, such as receiving chemotherapy or have had an organ transplant, stem cell transplants, or if you have any sort of primary immunocompromised disease, you really should consider getting that booster shot, which will be available. I'm already starting to see, many of the local hospitals around are gonna start giving those booster shots out starting next week. In Wilmington, you can still go to CVS, you can go to Target, you can get your shot there. They are still out there, they're very easy to get, so I'm really encouraging people to get out there and get the vaccinations. Some of the positives that I'm seeing are, they're still travel related from the summer. I think people just are out there traveling, going to group events, really not thinking about, I'm gonna get COVID, and not thinking about their own personal risk, and they're just picking it up somewhere. So I'm not seeing any community spread in any form in Wilmington, in any groups. Middlesex County as a whole is the largest county in Massachusetts, and all counties now are high risk for transmission. But then you have to think about, where we're at as a town. So I'm just not seeing those numbers to be alarms yet in Wilmington. And I'm hoping that we'll just kind of steadily stay on this path and not see any real surges, as long as people still keep getting the vaccinations. I'm hoping, that at some point we're gonna level out with vaccine versus those that have gotten COVID. At some point, we're gonna have to, I think as the state will end up leveling out that way. It's just real important that if you're indoors and you feel like that you're a high-risk individual, that you should be wearing a mask, vaccinated or not, because you can still spread it to those around you that you live with that could be high risk or that could be unvaccinated. So really I'm not recommending a community-wide mask mandate. Don't think that's necessary. That could change, but I just don't feel that it's necessary in Wilmington right now. I do recommend, though, for anyone that, again, like I said, feels like they need to wear a mask because they're high risk, or they live with someone high risk, or, they're just not sure. It's time that people take their own personal risk assessment for themselves and think about, what am I doing? Where am I going? And should I be wearing a mask? And that's, I think, the trend that we're going to see. So that's why I feel right now we just don't need a community-wide mask mandate. So that's where we're at with numbers. I don't know if you guys have any more. I have so many numbers I could just keep rattling off to you guys with age groups and data and whatnot. So I don't know if you guys have any specific questions that I could help answer.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Shelley, for the update. Appreciate you being here. Of the 33, we seeing any relatives there? I mean, I would have to imagine, is that households?
I have a couple households.
Okay.
Yep.
I guess that's a good thing, right? We
Right,
understand that it
so-
runs through a household, right? So we're not seeing,
Yes.
33
Yeah.
different parts of town that have it.
Yep. And some of them are asymptomatic and they feel fine, and they had no idea that they even had it, or they got tested because they traveled and they came back, and or they were going somewhere and they got tested, and so they were surprised.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Shelley, do we, with this variant, are you finding it's affecting children more, like under 12, more so than the regular strain, or?
No,
Not-
I think that it's, they're not typing out whether it's, novel coronavirus or the Delta variant. We're assuming now that all the positives out there are this Delta variant.
Right.
So I'm just seeing that age group that's unvaccinated, the 20 to 30-year-olds. I really would love to see that group get vaccinated.
Yeah.
That's important.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Go ahead.
Thank you, Shelley, for coming. Are you anticipating, with cold weather starting to roll in the next month and a half or so, that the numbers could climb again, where people won't be as active outside?
Definitely. I do see that. If we looked at last year's data, we started to see spikes around November. I think that's probably when we'll see is when you start shutting your windows and not being outside as much. We really saw a huge difference from being indoors versus outdoors.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to watch our numbers and our trends and see where we're going and see if we need to, maybe think about masks indoors. Or,
Yeah.
keeping my fingers crossed and being optimistic that we won't have to go that way.
Yeah, and with that, with school starting, we don't know yet. I know
That's right.
they're meeting tonight, but we don't
Mhm.
know exactly where that's gonna
Right.
land.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I know, it's ever evolving.
And just one
Yes.
follow-up. And for the unvaccinated, Shelley, I noticed a sign coming in as of June 1st. All unvaccinated should be masked.
All the time, yep.
All the time.
All the time. Unvaccinated
That's-
people should have a mask on, no matter where they're going indoors.
Okay.
Any businesses, any public buildings,
And that's for residents coming in or employees?
correct.
Yep.
Yep, anyone that's unvaccinated should always have a mask on.
Madam Chair, I would just note, I guess a couple of weeks ago now, Chief Kavanaugh and I had a conversation about, as well as Dr. Brand, about the idea of convening the emergency management group that the chief chairs. And so Shelley and a number of staff people from town, general admin, as well as the superintendent's staff were present. We talked about the approach that each group was going to be taking, and so my understanding is this evening the school superintendent will be announcing their program, and but I think in terms of the approach that we're looking to continue with is this expectation that, as was just noted, when people come into the building, if they're not vaccinated, that they have a mask on. And I have seen people coming in with masks on, and we have people in the building that are wearing masks. It could be because that's their comfort level. We don't require people to show their vaccine card, but the presumption is that if people are without a mask, that they have been vaccinated.
And I think, I know where I work, we are practicing that as well. We've identified people who are vaccinated through a process, and they can go maskless. Everybody else can either choose to wear a mask, or if they're unvaccinated, they wear a mask. But we did just turn to everybody wearing a mask indoors, so.
And I guess the only other point I would make is, Shelley also noted, this is clearly an evolving situation, so, it's not to say things may change, but.
Yeah. Great, any other questions, or, no? Good. Thank you, Shelley, appreciate it.
Thanks, Shelley.
Great information. Okay, I do want to note that post this meeting, we will go into another executive session pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel town manager. That will be at the end of our agenda. Now we're going to move on to communications. Mr. Howard.
Yes, the first communication was a memo that was sent to the board that talked about the truck exclusion that DOT turned down on Woburn Street. I won't go into that in any further detail, as Paul Aluni did cover that. The next memo, it was from Paul describing the response. As was noted earlier, we had a 2.5% rate of the heavy trucks, and that we will be conducting the traffic review in the fall here. Also, there's a memo to the board from me with regard to the intersection at Middlesex Ave and Clark Street. The recognition here is that There has been some number of accidents at that intersection. I don't know offhand the total number, but one of the things that we're going to be doing is there will be a traffic count at that location. Talked to the deputy police chief earlier today, and the expectation is we'll get the traffic tubes out next week at each leg to identify the amount of traffic coming through the intersection. As anyone who goes through that intersection knows, if you're heading on Clark Street through the intersection to get, for example, to Church Street, it's there's a site limitation there on the right with the hedges that are there. The town does not have a right-of-way that extends into that zone where the hedges are, so that is private property, and the town does not have any ability to trim the hedges. Some years ago, representatives of the town reached out to the property owners at the time, and they were not interested in trimming the hedges. A similar request was made more recently. Again, they were not interested, and I think from the property owner's standpoint, those hedges really serve as a buffer to the yard for traffic coming through. But we will be having a traffic engineer review the counts as well as look at the accident data and the visibility situation there with the expectation of coming back to the board with a recommendation likely to be the latter part of September, and go from there. This next communication is from Ed Johnson, who is a resident of Clark Street, and he directs this letter to the board and to me. He notes, I'm writing to the town to see about getting some changes made to Clark Street, which most people are aware of is a cut-through street for a ton of transients. Well, we know how busy the street is. Myself and fellow residents are now insisting something be done about the constant heavy trucks and speeding occurring on Clark Street both night and day. I propose to have signs posted and enforced for no heavy trucks allowed, meaning 18-wheel trucks and heavy dump trucks, cranes, and equipment that drive down our streets and shake the houses and windows on all the homes. The street was never intended to run heavy equipment down it, and is destroying the road and causing many houses to shake and potentially crack our foundations. I speak for the entire street. See attached signatures. I would like this brought up at your next meeting. I would like to be contacted to see if there's anything more that you need from myself or others on Clark Street residents, so that we may be taken seriously. At the very least, please contact me to let me know you have received the letter. Another topic for this agenda would be the intersection of Middlesex and Clark Street. The intersection has a minimum of 5 to 7 accidents a month. Check the police logs and should be addressed before there is a fatality. I'm anxious to know what you need from me and want our voices to be heard. So clearly we are responding to this. Part of that traffic review, the traffic counts, was essentially the same process that was done on Woburn Street, and really the same standard applies. So we need to, over a snapshot in time, identify the volume of traffic, in this case coming down Clark Street, and the volume of truck traffic needs to be at least 5%, 5 to 8%, in order for the ability to have a truck exclusion. Next, under correspondence, is a memo from me responding to Mr. Johnson, which lays out the particulars here and notes that we are required to follow the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which is essentially a standard that's used for traffic control. It's been adopted by the state, explains the various steps that we'll be taking. Next, under correspondence, is a memo from Tina Conway, Town Clerk, with regard to updating the precincts. And there was a memo that went to the board, I believe it was last week, that outlined the prospect that there may need to be a 7th precinct. At the time of that writing, we were under the impression that the state would not be receiving the population totals until September, and unfortunately, this is atypical, where there's a real crunch time in terms of turning this around. Typically, the Census Bureau provides communities with census data in the late spring, and then the communities are able to work through the process of either revising the existing precincts or, if necessary, adding a precinct. Unfortunately, we're in this crunch period, and the precincts have to be set by the end of October. More recently, we were informed that the states received the census numbers as of August 12th, so they will be reviewing that information and ultimately distributing it to the cities and towns, and we expect to receive our number. The tentative number that we have been provided is 23,496. According to the requirements, each precinct cannot have more than 4,000 residents in it. Otherwise, there needs to be a new precinct added. So we're on the cusp there, but it remains to be seen when the final numbers come out whether a 7th precinct is required. I think at the least, there's a strong likelihood that the existing 6 precincts, there will be some minor modifications to the makeup, just so that we're staying within that 4,000 person threshold. So this memo talks about that. My expectation is that Ms. Conway will be in to talk to the board at the next meeting about the particulars once we get some details on our numbers. I have a memo to the board with regard to a recent meeting of the Board of Health. This took place on August 3rd with regard to private wells. One of the issues that EPA had approached Shelley Newhouse, the health director, and myself about was we actually have 2 Superfund sites that are in close proximity, one being the Sutton Brook site, which is actually in Tewksbury, but the zone of influence, if you will, does come into Wilmington. And of course, the Olin site, EPA's concern is for private wells, new private wells, they would like to be informed if applications are being made and have an opportunity to, or actually have the water tested for the particular constituents that are maybe in that zone of influence, if you will, and then EPA and DEP be able to weigh in before the Board of Health in terms of whether those wells should be authorized for use. The members of the Board of Health had a number of questions and concerns about that process, and ultimately have tabled or continued the public hearing, and it's my understanding that they will be reconvening the public hearing on September 21st. We have correspondence from the Department of Environmental Protection. This is with regard to the electronic charging stations, and as it notes here, Wilmington will receive 2 charging stations, one at the Wilmington Memorial Library, the other here at Glen Road, and the grant amount is $11,430 for each. This, as you know, is being done through Reading Municipal Light, and the DEP will be working with them. Certainly, as more information becomes available, I'll make it available to the board. We have correspondence here from the Attorney General's office This comes about this time every year following town meeting. As you know, we have, the town clerk turns in the votes on changes to the inhabitant bylaws and the zoning bylaws, and they're reviewed by the Attorney General's office. In this case, we have a number of zoning articles that were reviewed and ultimately approved. Article 44, which dealt with revisions, really more clerical revisions to the Traveling Animals Act, that was approved. Article 46 dealt with brew pubs. That was approved with some additional commentary, and in fact, Valerie Gingrich is taking up those issues with town council just to make sure we're clear. Article 47, again, deals with the brew pubs. That was approved. 48 was a special permit granting authority with regard to groundwater protection district, changing it from the Board of Appeals to the Planning Board. Article 49 was a rezoning of multiple parcels from R20 to R10. Article 54 was a rezoning from R60 to R20. This was property at 417 Andover Street. 58, Article 58 was a rezoning from general business to neighborhood mixed use for property on Cross Street. Article 62 was a revision to the principal use table with regard to funeral homes. Article 64 was a revision to the regulations with regard to pet care facilities. So all of those have been approved. So at this point, the town clerk does have a posting obligation, and once they've been posted for the requisite time, the zoning articles take effect as of the date they were voted, unless otherwise dictated in the article, and the inhabitant bylaw article takes effect after the posting date. Next, we have just a letter from the town clerk noting the recent appointments to members of the Finance Committee. So we have 3 new members, Joseph Levino, Scott Neville, and David Tamming. These are new members for 3-year terms. We have correspondence from Eric Hockey, who is the attorney representing New England Transrail. You'll recall this is a quarterly report that has to go into the Surface Transportation Board with regard to activities associated with NET's proposal. Really just recaps the status here, noting that the EPA issued their record of decision, and also notes a recent meeting that took place between representatives of Wilmington Woburn Intermodal, who's looking at potential warehousing for the site, and town representatives. And then there's a similar letter. Again, the town is also obligated to provide these quarterly updates. This comes from Dan Deutsch, special counsel for us on this project, and essentially covers the same information. And with that, I will turn it over to Selectman Bendel.
Thank you, Mr. Hall, Madam Chair. The Senior Center Committee met with Dietz and Company, our architect, and OPM P3, Dan Pilata, on July 27th for nearly 4 hours. So I hope you got a chance to watch the replay. But we had a great discussion, a lot of public comment. We had a lot of residents here that joined us and gave great input. But we discussed the space requirements, reviewed the adjacency diagram, and talked a lot about the layout. In addition, there was a healthy discussion about the locations. And at this point, we're trying to schedule a joint meeting with the members of the Town Hall School Administration Committee to discuss our next steps. Thank you.
And next on the under communication is a memo from Selectman Kyra.
Thank you, Mr. Hull. Madam Chair, the update on the town school administration building. We had a meeting on August 11th with representatives from Johnson Roberts Architects. They provided us an update, first presentation, and a look at what the vision of this new complex would be. They had many conversations with the staff and visitations here at Town Hall and at the Roman House to get an understanding of what they need and what is to be identified for the new space. It's approximately a 40,000 square foot building, possibly 2 stories. It would also include WCTV, and they're going to be having conversations with them as well. We too discussed the 4 potential sites, and our next step is to, with Dan Pilata, the OPM, and our next step is to have a joint meeting with the Senior Center Committee to review the sites, to see where we're heading.
Great, thank you. Okay, now we're on to board to consider. I think
So
we're at
under,
number 9, right?
Yes, so under board to consider, the first item is an appointment to the Economic Development Committee. You'll recall Mr. Tivnan had to step down from the committee. This appointment was previously made by Selectman Kyra, and he has brought forward the name of Jared Costantino to serve as the Economic Development Committee representative, or one of the representatives for the board to
I'll make
endorse.
that into a form of a motion. Jared is a longtime resident, he's a businessman, he's a volunteer, he's a member of the Knights of Columbus. You always ask a busy person to take on a task of importance, and he is looking forward to this wholeheartedly, and I think he'll be a good addition to this committee.
Second that motion.
Okay, all in favor, or any discussion? No?
Discussion. I
Discussion?
just want to thank Mr. Costantino for his willingness to step up and volunteer and join a fine group of people.
Yep. I second that. I look forward to working with him on the committee. All in favor? Approved. I look forward to welcoming him to our meeting, hopefully on Wednesday evening.
The next item was the continuation, the extension of the Olin agreement, which was previously taken up. The next item under board to consider was the easement at 203 Lowell Street, which was previously addressed. This next item under board to consider is executing the agreement between the town and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local 1703, Unit 1. These are our custodians and building maintenance personnel. They, after having a couple of sessions with them, agreed to a proposal that was discussed actually some time ago, which was to enter into a 1-year contract, no changes in language at 1.5%. So the union body endorsed that proposal, and I'm recommending the selectmen do the same.
Any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, those in favor? It's unanimous. So moved.
And so just as a FYI, I have the contracts here. Perhaps after the close of the meeting, before you go into your executive session, you could just sign off on these.
Sure.
Next is under board to consider disclosure for Rebecca Sanderson. The 2 building committees that we have in place right now, the Senior Center Committee and the Town School Admin Committees. Obviously, these are public meetings. We need to maintain minutes of these meetings, and so I had reached out to the union, one of the members of the union, to inquire amongst her group for people that might be interested in serving as the record person for maintaining minutes. And as it turns out, Rebecca Sanderson volunteered. She acts in her main role. She serves as the senior clerk in the fire department, works with the fire chief. And so fortunately, she has agreed to step up in this role. This is simply a disclosure to note that she is receiving compensation for her main role in that function, and would receive a compensation as a recording secretary. So I don't see any conflict, and I would recommend that the board authorize her to serve in this capacity.
So moved.
Second.
Any further comments or all in favor? Unanimous.
You just need to sign that one. Okay, next under board to consider is a request that was received from a resident with regard to placing a stop sign at the intersection of Carter Lane and Boutwell Street. There are a few instances of, as Jamie McGaldy notes in his memo to me, where the secondary roads don't always have stop signs entering a main road. He reviewed the situation. Again, this MUTCD guideline or requirement that the state follows. He believes, in light of the nature of the intersection, there is a measure of visibility that's impacted. So he's recommending that the board authorize a stop sign at that location.
Do I have a motion?
Move to grant the request.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimously approved.
As the health director noted earlier in the evening, she has been in touch with Cataldo Ambulance Service and would like to hold a COVID vaccination clinic using the July 4th parking lot on August 19th from 4 to 7 p.m. This is a drive-up clinic, and they would be providing the Pfizer and J&J vaccinations. It'd be available for ages 12 and up, and then the second dose would be available on September 9th. So I would recommend the board authorize use of the Swain parking lot.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimously approved.
We have a request to light the town common in gold during the month of September in observance of Childhood Cancer Awareness. As you know, we receive these requests periodically, and this is another anonymous request, but the lenses are typically paid for by the donor, and our folks take care of changing out the lenses.
Move to grant the request with great thanks to the donor.
Yes.
Second.
In favor? Yes. Thank you to
This
the
is-
people offering to do that.
Next is a request from the Wilmington Youth Hockey Association to use the town common to host a movie night, outdoor movie night. And the dates that they are suggesting, and it would be one of these, would be either August 23rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th, September 5th, September 24th, October 1st, October 15th, or October 22nd. My recommendation would be that the board authorize any of these dates, subject to a conversation that we would have with the representative from youth hockey as to which date makes sense.
Okay. Do you have a motion? Or any questions?
Move to grant the request.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Granted.
We have a request from Dana Burnham, Wilmington Tewksbury United Methodist Women's, request approval from the Board of Selectmen to place lawn signs on town property that will advertise our upcoming Church Harvest and Holly Fair on Saturday, September 25th, 2021. The signs are simple and state the Harvest and Holly Fair, location, date, and hours, and will be placed out on the week prior to the event. We would like to place 4 signs at the town common, 2 on the Church Street side, 2 on the Middlesex side. In advance, we thank you for your consideration of this request, and we hope for a timely and favorable reply.
I'll make a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, second, all in favor? Approved.
And then the last item on the board to consider is a letter from John Romano. The Wilmington Sons and Daughters of Italy's 4th Annual Antique and Collectors Car Show was scheduled to be held on Sunday, July 25th, 2021, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. However, due to the heavy rain, it was canceled. We are planning to reschedule for Sunday, October 24th, 2021, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. We would like to request the use of the town common parking lot and the 4th of July building for the rescheduled event, as we did for the last 3 years before 2020. There will be some setup the night before, and we would be setting up at 7 a.m. and shutting down no later than 4 p.m. on the day of the show. The event will be the same as past years, and once again, we will be collaborating with the Dominators Car Club. There will be a charge for show cars to enter. We are expecting about 125 show cars at the event. Sons and Daughters of Italy will be selling hot dogs, hamburgers, sausage, snacks, soda and water, coffee, and donuts and muffins, egg sandwiches at the event as well. The event will be free to all residents of Wilmington to come and enjoy. We understand that your approval will be subject to restrictions, changes, or amendments needed due to COVID-19 at the time of the event. If any further information is needed, please call. Thank you in advance for your support of the Wilmington Sons and Daughters of Italy.
I'll move to grant the request.
I'll second.
All in favor? Approved. All right, that will be it for considerations and announcements. Now we'll go to any public comments. Ms. O'Connell?
Good evening, Madam Chair. Just to give my name and address for the record, Judy O'Connell, 11 Broad Street. I'd like to make an inquiry through you as the chair to the town manager, if I may, just to go back to the Cook Street conversation. And I apologize for asking it later in the meeting, but I didn't want to interrupt during that portion as it wasn't public comments. My question is regarding the agreement with Olin and for that water main installation. Is the intention as part of the agreement to do any water quality testing at the address level on the street for each owner so that we have a benchmark as to the water quality at each residence post-installation? And is that part of the agreement, or is that the intent? As I would think that that would be of value to all parties that are involved to have an idea that this was successful upon implementation.
I don't believe that that is part of this agreement, but the EPA does require water quality testing at those locations on Cook Ave. So I would expect that, and I don't know offhand when the last or the most recent time the water quality was checked at those locations, at least in terms of the well water, but I would expect that's an ongoing process that Olin is required to take samples at the 2 homes that will now have public water, as well as the other homes that will remain on well water.
Thank you, so Any further comments? No? Any announcements? Mr. Bendel?
Madam Chair, if I may, I have a month's worth, if that's okay.
Oh,
All
go
right.
for it, yeah.
I'll be brief. First of all, I just wanted to commend our police and fire department and others who were participating in the National Night Out. It was fantastic.
That's awesome.
It was a huge crowd at the time that I was there, and it was beautiful weather finally, and it was great to be out there, and just another great example of the relationship that our community has with not only our police department, but our fire department. So I commend both departments. I also want to thank those servicemen and women that were there. Specifically, I know there were members, I think, from almost all branches. So, and I know there were other departments that came. I don't want to leave anybody out, but I do want to give huge kudos to both Wilmington Police and Fire, and I know DPW was involved in helping out set up. So, thanks to all of them. I thought it was a great community event, terrific crowd. Speaking of community events, I do want to remind everybody it's coming up under important dates, but the town will be having a commemoration of the 20th anniversary of 9/11 on September 11th. It's a Saturday this year, and at the high school, we invite all residents to attend. It starts at 8:30, and we'll have a brief program that I think will be very fitting tribute to the tragic events that took place on 9/11 back in 2001. So I'd urge all my fellow residents to attend that. I want to say good luck to all the students heading back to school.
Yeah.
And finally, I just want to, we have one of our board members has a big birthday this week, so I want to give that person a happy birthday in a few days from now. So
You're not talking
I'll leave the
about me.
number out of it, but happy birthday
Happy
to
birthday,
Mr. Kyra later this week. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further announcements? All right. Any new business? No new business. All right, we will move on to important dates. Mr. Hull.
Under important dates, continuing through October 3rd is the Farmers Market Town Common Parking Lot, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Taking place this week, the 18th of August, 6 p.m. in the auditorium will be the next Economic Development Committee meeting. August 24th, the Bylaw Review Committee is going to be meeting here at the Town Hall, Room 9, 4:30 p.m. Also on the 24th, the Ice Rink and Recreation Facility Committee will be meeting in the auditorium at 7 p.m. August 28th is Shredding Day, the municipal parking lot over by the Swain area, 9 a.m. to noon. The Ice Bucket Challenge, which is put on by the Rotary, is August 28th, Rotary Park, 10 a.m. September 1st, for all those kids that are anxious to get back to school, school opens grades 1 through 12. September 2nd, special election to fill the vacancy on the Board of Selectmen, and the polls open at 8 a.m. and will close on 8 p.m. September 6th is the Labor Day, and town offices will be closed. September 7th is the first day of school for the kindergartners. September 8th is a brush drop-off, Old Main Street, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. September 11th, as Selectman Bendel noted, is a commemoration of the events of 9/11. It will be held at the high school in the auditorium in the cafeteria area, starting at 8:30 a.m. Also on September 11th is the brush drop-off down at on Old Main Street. It'll be open from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. September 12th, the Harnden Tavern has an open house, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. September 13th is the next Board of Selectmen's meeting here in the, actually in the auditorium at 7 p.m. September 18th, the Sons of Italy and Baron Parents yard sale, and also that's in collaboration with the Wilmington Memorial Library. They're having the townwide yard sale. That all takes place, in the case of the band parents and Sons of Italy, that is taking place at the municipal parking lot on the 18th. September 20th is a candlelight vigil, Town Common. The hours are 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. September 25th, Wilmington's incorporation is only 291 years ago.
Huh.
And then the Selectmen are meeting again on the 27th here at Town Hall, Room 9, 7 p.m.
Thank you. Now, Selectman Bendel will do our salute to service, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On behalf of the Board of Selectmen, we want to thank and congratulate longtime Wilmington resident, Mr. Joseph F. McCarthy, U.S. Army, a longtime resident who served during the World War II, earned the rank of Private First Class, and served in Central Europe from August of 1942 to December of 1945. And as many of you already know, Joe recently turned 100 years old on July 24th, and his family and friends held a very large parade in his honor. The parade included a lot of residents, tons of classic cars, and our first responder vehicles as well were well represented. Joe was featured in all the local news outlets, including the CBS Evening News. And according to our Director of Veteran Services, Lou Samaglia, he's one of the greatest generations, as people say all the time, but it's extremely true. He is. He's just a hardworking person and a great guy, according to Lou. And so on behalf of the Board of Selectmen and all the citizens of the town of Wilmington, we salute Joe and thank him for his service to our country and to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I would now like to entertain a motion to enter executive session for the purpose of preparations for negotiations with non-union personnel and to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel, town manager, in accordance with General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, and that upon completion of the executive session, the board will adjourn the meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Roll call, please. In favor?
Greg Bendel, yes.
Kevin Kyrie, yes.
Garrett,
Gary.
yes.
Will Massell, yes. So moved. Okay, we will adjourn to executive session.